Welcome to Hello Player, a show for curious people who want an honest look at making a video game. I'm your host, Evva Karr, and we're getting the gang back together for this special 3-part series of Hello Player Season 1. We are going to go in and dive into some of the parts that really no one ever talks about, which is what happens after the game launches. If you're into what we're doing here, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel below. In this episode, we're catching up with Charles McGregor of Tribe Games to chat about life after launch, the world ending, and also how Geoff Keighley slid into his DMs. All right, let's get started, and please help me welcome back Charles McGregor. That's going to be me just clapping. Yay, welcome back, Charles.
Goodness sake.
I'm so excited to chat with you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, as you mentioned, things have changed a little bit since we last done this. So
yeah, it's been a while. I feel like our last episode was almost a year ago.
It feels like that.
Yeah. And HyperDot came out.
Yes, it did. It came out. Oh man, time. It came out in July, or no, not July, in January. Yeah, again, time makes no sense. In January, at the end of January.
What's happened with you since then? Like, a lot's happened in the world.
Nothing's happened. I don't know what you're talking about.
Everything's happened. The world is literally on fire as we are speaking.
Yeah. I mean, I actually didn't check to go see if the world is literally on fire. But things that happened since the last time we talked. The pandemic happened. Yeah. This is the reason why we're talking across the state. The pandemic in particular has been lots of ups and downs. The first big thing that the pandemic didn't do 100%, but it accelerated it, was that I unfortunately couldn't work at Glitch anymore. So I wasn't able to work out at Glitch.
We moved out. We moved out of our office, and it was really it was kind of this weird, painful moment of moving out without having celebrated life there. I don't know, you put in your keys, and there was even that screenshot. People took a picture of all of the keys that were lined up, and we couldn't see each other because the pandemic happened. And so it feels weird to not be 2 feet away from you.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the first domino thing effect that happened with I guess at the start of this all, where it was just I no longer was working at Glitch, and then it was just trying to find work and jobs and things, and then even more world things happened, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and even with again moving out of the office with the murder of George Floyd, our office was really only about 10 blocks away from that. And I know it was really hard on our staff, and I know your family too.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot, we were constantly watching TV. My dad kept on mentioning oh yeah, I know that place and those things and all everything that's going on over there, because my parents grew up in basically 4 blocks away from all that stuff. So yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. And I was actually on the MinMax show right after that happened, and the one thing that I remember the most was that I was definitely just tired overall.
Yeah.
After seeing almost 24 hours 4/7 coverage for I don't know how long. It was definitely something where I was oh man, it's draining, to say the least.
Yeah, as a human, not even as Charles McGregor, founder of Tribe Games, but just as a human. I hear you. I can't even begin to understand what it would feel like for you and your family. As for how things have been going since then with you and Tribe, we launched on Game Pass. I guess that's I don't know. It's so hard to even think about, it's so hard to think about games when the world is on fire.
Yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So it feels really weird to have this whole hey, HyperDot came out, and HyperDot came out just literally, week, 1 week, not even weeks, week before most things were closing down for the pandemic, and everything that happened during that March, April, and then May happened with Game Pass, and it's just
Yeah.
like, how can you even think about anything else? I don't know. How were you feeling during that time, especially like leading up to Game Pass and the Game Pass launch?
This is where like the ups come in, and there's a lot of like fortunately, I guess in my case there's a lot of up things that has happened since then, and Game Pass being one of them. It was like leading up to launch, it was really interesting and weird because it was way different from launching in January, where like, well, one, it was I was at home when this happened, but like,
I'm so sad that we couldn't celebrate. God dang it. Like, that's the one thing I continue to be really frustrated about, which is like not being able to celebrate that launch with you in, like 4 feet away or 2. I just said 2 feet earlier, but like 2 feet away. And it just feels really strange. Even though it's like this fun celebratory thing, it just has this like strange layer of, this doesn't feel real. What are we doing? What's going on?
That was probably the biggest change. And then the other one was that like the game was done, air quotes. So
what does that mean for listeners? I don't even remember what that means because it feels like it's been a little while. What do you mean by the game was done?
It was more that I didn't have to do a bunch of things as if it was like mission critical. If this does not get in, then the game literally will not be able to launch.
I guess like to you, it was feature complete at that point. Like all of the things that you had really wanted to do and all the things that we had even talked about, like it was done, except for, the couple of things that were our stretch goals, but they were mostly done. And that's what that means to you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's largely, that was a thing that was in the back of my head where I was like, if everything just like broke, everything that I'm doing leading up to launch just broke, it would be okay because the game can launch. And this is not the same as when I said this last time where I was like, oh yeah, if everything breaks, it's okay, we passed certification, we're good. And we actually like, we can confirm that the game is out there and it works and things like that. But everything that I was doing up leading to the Game Pass launch was like adding in more features, quality of life things, and like working on big updates. So, but those are all like in addition to things. So that was a different experience from like a launching thing where I was like, oh man, I'm able to not have to worry about or I don't have to completely worry about it breaking.
Yeah, there were a lot of new players that jumped on during Game Pass. Like that was another really big kind of moment, having so many players jump on. Like there were a lot of players that played, during that initial launch, but having, all of the Game Pass players that may have never, have found the game otherwise was kind of like this big shock moment.
Yeah, that's probably like one of my favorite moments was like after launch being able to see tweets from people who are like, oh man, I just checked this game out on Game Pass or whatever, and then them enjoying it, and like I still to this day still find people say, I was like, oh yeah, I checked out, or like I might mention like, yeah, I'm a game developer. Oh, what game you work on? I was like, oh, I worked on HyperDot. I was like, oh yeah, I checked that out on Game Pass. I'm like, what? Huh? That's something that is it still baffles me. Like it's I mean, even just in general, I'm just like, oh, what, you know about my game before I told you what the game is?
Oh my gosh, there are so many people that are just tweeting about it and it still freaks me the heck out. Like, what was it, Wario64? Like tweeted about it recently, and I love when like Pikachu Lito was playing. I don't know if we even talked about this in the last series, but like during these launch periods, just like all of these new players jumping in, it just feels so freaking good.
Yeah, and that's part of the, like, that was a huge joy of seeing like streams and things like that, where like, yeah, there was a whole bunch of influx of people, and there were a lot of people reaching out and being like, hey, tried out your game and I liked it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
did you get any people who reached out and were like, I hate it, there are bugs?
Oh yes, there was a lot of those as well, where it was like, oh man, the HyperDot, it existed, and then I stopped playing it or something like that. You know, the ones that you're like, yeah, not everybody's gonna like it, it's okay, but yeah,
that was actually kind of a big thing that happened during the releases, which was, we had like a whole damn thing where we were talking about how to handle a lot of the feedback that came back on a lot of the different storefronts. Some of them are great and some of them not so
Some,
much.
yeah, some not so much. There were a lot of like positive people who were reaching out and whatnot, and those are the ones that everyone who ever is in this like position saying, yeah, focus on those. But it's always the one person that like is negative, but like in this case, it was like more than negative. It was like aggressively negative.
Yeah.
Um,
How'd you
uh,
feel about reading those?
no, I did not feel great. I mean, I don't think that anybody would feel great about reading those ones in particular, where it's I'm cool with constructive criticism or like being
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't like it, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. That's fine. But it's more the ones where it's like attacking you from
Yeah.
like a more personal standpoint, and those are the ones that were really hard for me to read. At one point, there was a bug in the game that was
Yeah.
in there for a bit, and then a lot of reviews were just like being like bashing the game, rightfully
Yeah.
so, because there was a huge bug that
Yeah.
ruined the experience for a lot of people. But a lot of like there were a lot of aggressively
Yeah.
hateful things that people had said, and it was
Yeah.
just hard to go in and look at like reviews. And I want to say it was maybe a month and a half after this
Yeah.
um it came out. That was where it was like, oh man, I don't know if I feel uh like I don't know if I'm motivated to go back into and read a lot of those like reviews and comments, because there's like this off chance that I see that, and then
Yeah.
like it bums me out for like 2-3 days or something like that.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah, those things happen.
has such a negative impact on people, and I saw that it happened to you, that moment where we had kind of talked about it, and I know Nicholas had brought it up too, and just being like, hey, how do we want to tackle these? Like, do we want to address them, do we not want to address them? And I know it was just like one of those really hard moments where you're like,
Mhm.
well, if it's weird if we don't address them, but then like, what do we address versus what don't we address? It
Mhm.
became like a whole conversation about like how much energy is that going to take?
Yeah.
Um, and how do you end up feeling about the solution? I know that there was this whole conversation and we kind of came up with a couple of ideas around like, hey, here are some thoughts
Some ways to
on
go
how to,
around it.
yeah, some ways to at least like tackle this if it was something that you would want to potentially tackle.
So the way that we basically like tried to manage that was like to not go like head first into all of it, and not just be like, all right, everybody is a part of this. All of these reviews and things and things that people are talking about, I'm just like consuming all of this and
Mhm.
then have to process each one and whatnot. It was more of like me just like dipping my toe in and being like, okay, I'll try and respond to all these reviews and things, get the feedback, figure out what's going on for like all the valid points and things, because even the ones that or even some of the ones that were like filled with all that hate,
Yeah.
um they had, or the reason why they were mad initially was like based off of something that the game was like messed up or something like that.
Mhm.
Not all of them, definitely not all of them.
Definitely not all of
Yeah.
them. We
But
see you,
yeah,
people.
yeah. Some of them were like, oh man, the biggest one being like there was a bug where if you went up in the menu, you actually went down.
Yeah.
And so you couldn't like, if you went up too many times, you couldn't go back up to some of the levels and
Mhm,
stuff, and then
mhm.
you'd be stuck. So like seeing those and like being able to be like, okay, so these are the problems, trying to figure out all the issues and things like that, and taking it more of a methodical approach,
Yeah.
that has been useful. And then just, I don't know if I like saying that like, oh yeah, like gaining a thicker skin or something like that, uh, because I don't know if that is something that like creators need to ultimately have like
Yeah.
an iron shell of a thick skin kind of thing. But
Yeah.
having dealt with more of those comments and more of those things have definitely prepared me more for like diving back into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so doing that, having a more moderated approach was really nice.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Charles. I know it was, I remember it being very challenging during that time.
Yeah.
And I mean, continues to be for not only you, but a lot of other developers too. Like the type of feedback, of course, like there's great constructive feedback. There are others that are just like, yes, what you said, it's not really my cup of tea, or I'm not really into it. That's cool.
Yeah.
But the ones that are just like malicious, I feel like are this strange category that's just completely uncalled for. And it, like, those words can hurt people, and it sucks. So please stop doing them if you're a player and listening. I doubt any of our listeners fall into that category, but like,
yeah, no, and that's definitely something that like I knew, I've heard on many podcasts. I watched a bunch of like interviews and things when people are talking about that. It's like they either say, "Oh, don't read the comments,"
but you're curious.
Yeah,
you
but
gotta,
you're curious, and
like,
you always
you're
read
just
the comments, no
yeah.
matter what. Having heard all of that stuff, and it's a cliche, and I knew, I've even heard this in podcasts. It's like, oh, you don't know until you actually had to deal with it. But like that kind of stuff is unfortunately that's something that I had to deal with. But like I also understand that I have not dealt with like a huge amount in like in comparison to some other teams and things like that. So
grateful for that. So HyperDot fans, y'all are for the most part really flipping great. So thank you for being a part of this. We had some goals going in.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on like episode 3, episode 2. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. There was an episode in which we talked about goals. What the heck were they?
Well, it would probably be useful to know which episode we were talking about. Then we'd be able to be like, oh yeah, episode 3 here. Let me pull it up real quick.
No, I totally remember. Charles, no. I 100% remember. Do you remember?
I kind of remember what it was.
Okay, what do you remember?
I remember.
What were your goals, Charles? What were your goals?
It was, do better than glitch in the system, my first game. And
and your first game, just to remind people, right? Like glitch in the system came out on mobile, right? It was primarily mobile.
Yeah.
And it went out on the Windows Store because Windows Store.
I like the Windows Store. There we
go. You do. You love
Windows Phone for
Windows
life.
Phone, Windows. Y'all, like, Microsoft should just keep,
Yeah.
let's sponsor Charles McGregor some more. Bring him into the development of Windows Phone Next Edition. But yeah, I mean, that was one thing, right? You wanted to do better than where you were at with glitch in the system.
Yeah.
And how many people downloaded that? What were you able to, what were you able to do with the funding that came in? Talk to us about the reception of glitch in the system.
Sure. I mean, the reception of glitch in the system was overall positive. A lot of people liked it. It was small and really self-contained. It was not that big of a scope. It was one area or one arena with 2 enemies in it, or 2 types of enemies in it, and you just have to survive for as long as you can, fighting back out against them. Think HyperDot, except you can fight back.
Not pacifist mode.
Not pacifist mode. The thing that I always bring up with how glitch in the system did was that I was able to bring my parents to a decent Perkins meal. That's how
it's like Perkins or buying a pizza or something, right?
Yeah, it was like, I was like, yeah, that's about it. If they were saying like, oh, can I get a free pie or whatever, the thing, I'd be like, oh, hold on,
I love free pie.
Hold on, wait a minute. I wouldn't be able to get all that.
You got the meal, but not the dessert.
But not the dessert. And I was
you weren't able to provide a full meal.
No, I can't give you a first or second course. It's just you went to dinner. There you go. That's how glitch in the system was. And that's what my original goal was to do that.
Okay, you say that, but there was also one other one. There was one other one. Do you not remember? You're just casually not remembering it.
At all.
Well, I remember it.
Dang it. Okay.
Because I remember just specifically asking you, like, okay, if it were your dream, like, what is it?
This is like stretch goal to the 10th power of like, oh yeah, I would like to pay off some of my loans.
Some of them, you said you wanted to pay
I
off
would I
all of
mean,
your
yeah, I
loans.
wanted to pay
Come
off
on,
all my
Charles.
loans, but like I was reining it in. I was like, man, I understand. This is game development. I'm an indie game. So yeah, that was my goal, was to be able to like, oh yeah, either at least make a dent in my student loans, because there were a lot. Emphasis on were.
So tell us about that. You can't just be like, emphasis on were.
were.
Like,
I mean,
you have to give us more than that. Tell us.
yeah,
Tell
so,
me.
okay. I was actually able to pay off all my student loans, and it was, yeah. So like, audio listeners, if you're listening, Evva is now clapping and waving hands really fast. But yeah, so like that was a surreal moment, to be able to say that and then do that, and then there was like a pop-up after I did it, and it said, hey, you paid off your loans. I was like, huh, I did. And then
Happy birthday.
happy birthday. No. Happy birthday. No. There was a thing that said like, oh yeah, you paid off your loans. Check out this video of somebody else who did it, who did like, got like a record label, and then the first thing that they did was pay off their loans. And then so I was like, huh, that's weird and kind of corny, but I'm like, I understand why you did it, because you're super happy about it. But like, yeah, so it was just like a surreal moment to do that, and like it was weird.
You achieved your goals.
I did achieve my goals.
You achieved your goals, and that's a huge thing. Yeah. Congratulations, Charles.
Thank you. I feel like a lot of things that have happened with HyperDot is just like, I don't know how to process things. HyperDot has been just an amazing experience. And again, like, there's no way that I was 2 years ago, like I was thinking like, oh yeah, I'll be able to pay off my loans. I'll talk to Greg Miller.
You didn't believe? Now I'm just upset.
Well, okay, not,
I'm just kidding.
Hope. I was like, okay, who am I kidding? No, I wasn't thinking like, oh yeah, that. I always think that those are far distant things.
Yeah. And I am actually then going to ask for your new goals. What are your new big life goals? Tell me.
I got it. I don't.
Tell me, Charles.
I don't know. Okay. Well, okay. I still have like the goal of like, oh yeah, I have my dream project that I want to work on it and things like that. So that would probably be the biggest future goal thing.
Is this the birds one?
This is the one with the falcon. Oh, look at that. Dropped a hint at what it is.
It's a bird.
Oh man, I said a falcon. Oh man, that's even more specific. So there's just so many things that have happened that were I would have said, these are my future goals: being able to go to E3, being able to do X, Y, Z. Yeah, we did that. And that's like, and that's the weird part, is like all of these things. It's just so it's surreal and humbling, and like it's insane that like all of these things have happened. So it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, new goals.
I mean, another goal could have like super cool people sliding into your DMs.
For goodness sake.
So a certain someone slid into your DMs recently. That wasn't even a goal. That was just a thing that happened.
that was a thing that happened, and I was not at all I was not expecting this, because apparently some people didn't tell me about this.
I am so sorry.
Yeah.
No. We're not. Okay, anyway.
Okay. One Friday night, I was playing Tetris, and then in between a round, I looked over at my phone, and it was like, oh, I got or somebody followed me. I was like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. And then I checked, and then it said, Geoff Keighley followed you. And then I proceeded to freak out. I was like, what? Huh? And then I had like my favorite interaction with my brother all year. Where I screenshot, I was like, Geoff Keighley followed me. What the? And I posted it, and I just started typing, what? But then my brother was like, what? And then Geoff Keighley was like, hey, can you send me your email in a DM? Yes. And then I screenshot. I was like, what? And then my brother was like, whoa. And I just had no idea. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And then my brother was like, send the man your email. And I proceeded this. I was like, sent. I was like, there was no prompting for this. And I couldn't understand what happened. So
chill, very chill.
Real chill. I was, oh yeah. I mean, when I said, I was like, oh yeah, sure. Huh? Here's my email.
Yes, you were of course very chill when talking to him.
Yeah, when I was
clearly.
like, oh, yeah, no problem. But
no problem. You can send over those assets.
yeah, no problem. I can do that real quick. And then but no, I totally lost it. And it was at that point I still wasn't like, no, there's no way. No, there's no way. Because again, some people didn't tell me. But then I was like, yeah, there's no way. Nah, can't happen. Then there was the announcement for the Game Awards. And then I was like, I'm gonna watch this. Just to watch. Well, not just to watch, because I was like, maybe nah. But
maybe nah.
Maybe nah. There are so many times where I was like, nah. During the announcement thing, they got to the innovation and accessibility category, and then they started listing off things. They were like Assassin's Creed, and they're like Grounded, Watch Dogs Legion. Then they said HyperDot. I was like, whoa, wait, hold on, what? And then like at that point, I said, huh? And then they said The Last of Us Part 2. And then I said, what? My game, and then what preceded was just me losing mind and could not talk and comprehend sentence and talk and straight and no. And so it was like that. And then, but there's a fairly good record of me just freaking out on almost all platforms that I could freak out on. It was insane. Yeah.
I love that you freaked out so much, and being a third-party viewer of all of this, like when you posted in Slack your messages with Steven, I was just laughing my butt off because I realized in that moment that I hadn't told you that there was a submission that went in. And I felt like that was probably the best thing that I could have done, was just be like,
wow.
Don't tell him.
Oh yeah, I just signed you up. Oh my goodness.
I mean, I don't know. It does with like Game Award things, like it doesn't always come into fruition, right? Like, and so it happens sometimes, it doesn't happen sometimes, and I kind of like the way that it happened this time. So I'm proud of myself. You're never going to ever hear about any other nominations.
Oh my goodness.
If we ever submit them or another partner submits them, you're just going to find out this way again. And I think this was the best option.
Yeah, great. That's, just randomly. Listen, I am already just through the roof. The fact that I was even like nominated, I was considered amongst all of these other great games and things that have done like pushed so many boundaries and things in like accessibility and making things more accessible and approachable, and the work that people have done. My game is next to The Last of Us, and I'm like, one of my favorite games, if not my favorite game. The first Last of Us is probably like one of my favorite games ever, and like to see that, it's just insane. So like, I'm already done. Check it off the list. I'm like, come on.
I do truly believe that, I very, very badly want them to just be like, let's make dot-like games. That is going to be the gold standard of like accessibility. No, okay. Come on, Charles. Okay,
hold up.
Likes. Jump on board.
We're not about to
get in the car. We're going.
No, I'm gonna have my feet firmly planted here. What?
I am going to drag you.
Goodness sake. Okay. But again, super happy about the nomination. It is really surreal. Again, I use the word surreal. I feel like I use the word surreal way more often than I used to, but I don't know how else to explain it. It's just been surreal, all of the things that I've been able to do with HyperDot.
Well, that's a wrap for the episode, everybody.
Oh my goodness.
You can continue the conversation with us and also the Hello Player community over at discord.gg/HeyGlitch. And don't forget to subscribe to Hello Player on your favorite podcast app. Hello Player is produced by me, Evva Karr, Holly Harrison, Ben Hansen of MinMax, Alana Smith, and also music done by none other than Charles McGregor. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. We did it.
Boom.
Unless there's anything that Alana believes that we should re-record.
All of it?
No!